What is going on, guys? My name is Johnny, I'm the coach of your Cologne Conkeldurrs, and welcome back to the NPL Tryout Tournament with our first game against the Fresno Flygons, coached by Insanity. His link will obviously be down in the description below. You know our team from the draft recap. I'm doing it like this. I'm going to do a quick rundown of my team, because like with 8 months I felt there was no need for an in-depth team builder. So yeah, I'm going to make a rundown of my team in the matchup in general and why I decided to bring the mons I decided to bring. Okay, so his team consists of the 6 mons on screen, which are Cologne Conkeldurrs, Gastrodon Gastrodon, Heatran, Togekiss, Latias, and he also has Mega Gyarados and the Alolan Raichu in the back. So a couple things to know for this matchup. We have Lucario is great versus him. It needs its dual stab, fighting and steel, destroy him, and his only offensive answers to Lucario are Kartana, Latias, and Alolan Raichu. Now, Kartana eats up both physical priority moves, which means I can only run a special Lucario. Kartana is a threat, so I have to run a special Lucario. Plus, this isn't as bad, but because you think like Vacuum Wave is resisted by Latias and Alolan Raichu. However, my Mega Absol here is able to Pursuit Trap both the Latias and the Alolan Raichu, or get rid of them with ease, so my Lucario has a great chance of sweeping late game with the Nasty Plot set. I'm running Vacuum Wave, Flash Cannon, Order Spear, Nasty Plot with the Chople Berry, so I can heat up a Mach Punch from Conkeldurr. Yeah, so in prep I knew I needed to weaken Conkeldurr to sweep, but you'll see how that turns out later on. Next up, another thing I noticed is that my Thunderous Therian form is great against him. T-Bolt hits his entire team for good damage, barring the Gastrodon and the Latios. Or not necessarily T-Bolt, but the combination of T-Bolt and Dark Pulse and Grass Knot hits his entire team for really strong damage. And with agility I turn into a menacing setup sweeper that also is able to potentially check a Choice Scarf Togekiss. Granted, I get the agility off early, and with leftovers I should be able to beat almost any variant of Togekiss 1v1 if it's not set up already. Also, this obviously gives me my electric immunity that I can potentially switch into the Alolan Raichu. Next up, as I mentioned, my Pursuit Trapping Mega Absol, pretty standard with knockoff, Superpower, Pursuit, and Stone Edge. Superpower, so I have a way of actually hitting Kartana for good damage. It also hits Tran for better damage and can do some damage to the Conkeldurr, despite me obviously being Mach Punch first, which is stupid. And then I have Stone Edge as my last coverage move because I wanted to have something to hit this Togekiss on the switch potentially. Because I really anticipated a defensive Togekiss to kind of deal with my Mega Absol. Yeah, but that's that. Next up, I needed a defensive check to Arcanine. To Kartana, which is my Arcanine. My Arcanine is standard physically offensive this game with Morning Sun, Flare Blitz, and I have Toxic and Bulldoze. Toxic is for the Latias switch and the Gastrodon switch, and Bulldoze for the Tran. It doesn't OHKO, but it's a 2-hit KO, even Scarf Tran. With a speed drop can be more manageable then. So yeah, I really like this Arcanine set. I have Flare Blitz over Flamethrower just for damage on the potential AV Conkeldurr, because with the nature of his team, with him having Kartana, Latias, Conkeldurr, Heatran, Gyarados, Mega Gyarados, and Togekiss, I have a problem, because while I do have defensive checks for all his Pokemon, I can't really, I have to use those defensive checks. Like, there's not one Pokemon that can wall an abundance of haste. I have to have one Pokemon that's dedicated to checking that. And so it might be difficult for me to break through his defensive core over the long run. So I sort of felt I had a tough matchup. Well, I had checks to his mons. Like, for example, my Manaphy set is leftovers physically defensive with Energy Bolt, Scald, Rain-Ins, and Rest, because I felt I needed the reliable Manaphy to not be swept by a Mega Gyarados late game and have a switch into that, because otherwise, if you look at my team, even if the Gyarados doesn't set up, I can still wreak havoc on my entire team by just spamming Waterfall and Crunch if I don't bring a defensive Manaphy. So I didn't bring setup mana for this game. Physically offensive obviously wouldn't have been that great because Cortana just doesn't care. And I would lack coverage to hit the Gastrodon most likely, so it all wasn't really easy for me to prep this game. I felt like, well, I had some threats to him. He definitely had the matchup here. And yeah, lastly I needed to check because I was getting really weak to Latias and Conkeldurr. I needed to check to both of those, plus I needed Stealth Rock. So I decided to throw in a physically defensive Yuxi with Stealth Rocks, with U-Turn, with Psyshock to hit the potential AV Conk, and with Yawn. Now Yawn is actually a pretty cool tech because it prevents stuff that switches in on me from staying in without going to sleep. Like, it prevents a Taunt Tran from completely walling me, it prevents a Mega Gyarados from setting up on me, it prevents the Togekiss from flinching me down, it prevents the Latias from roost stalling me. So yeah, I felt like Yawn was a pretty cool tech that this game might come in handy overall. Okay, so enough rambling from me. Let's get into the match here. So I'm going to play this replay and normal. So at team matchup, I see no Mega Gyarados, and I'm like, great, that's awesome for me. And another thing I noticed is that Kartana looks to be a win condition on this team. So what I need to do is I should, at most costs, prevent rocks from getting up. Plus, since Gyarados isn't around, my defensive Manaphy isn't as valuable, and I can use it to scout out a few of his sets, weaken his Pokemon accordingly. Which is why I lead with this Manaphy. Now, as I thought, he leads with a Heatran because that can get up his Stealth Rocks immediately. Obviously, he won't do so in front of a Manaphy, so I just throw out a Scald here. He goes to Gastrodon, which I considered, but I didn't really care about because I have the Energy Ball on this Manaphy, and he probably thinks I have it too, which is why I predict the double here. So I'm a Scald again, fishing for a burn on the potential Latias, which he goes into after all. Unfortunately, no burn. But this damage shows me that he's an offensive Latias. And here is the first interesting step. He reveals to be the Z Devastating Drake. Does a shit ton to my Manaphy. Now, I'm not sure. Well, I knew I had problems with the Latias because I couldn't bring Clefable. I couldn't fit Clefable on this team because Clefable absolutely gets dropped by Conkeldurr. Like, fun fact, my entire team barring Arcanine can really beat Conkeldurr 1v1. Especially and even Arcanine isn't a real check because I need to preserve Arcanine to weaken the Kartana. So that's really, really difficult this game. But anyways, the Z Devastating Drake hits my Manaphy. I Scald again. Here, get no burn, unfortunately I get leftovers. And now I'm going to make the switch out into my Yuxi, predicting the Psychic or the Draco Meteor, but more the Psychic to come off here in order to hit my Manaphy or kill my Manaphy off. However, he shows that he has Shadow Ball, which was a really nice bring and really nice prep on his part. I didn't expect it. And this means that this damage on the Yuxi might cost me the game. I should have probably... I didn't expect him to Shadow Ball here. I expected him to Draco, most likely. So me going into Yuxi, I consider, like hindsight, this was a choke. Because Yuxi was my best check to the Conkeldurr. And you'll see how that turns out that I took this hit. So, hindsight, I should have just sacked off Manaphy or went ballsy and went into Absol to trap this Latias because I knew I needed to do that to win. But hindsight is 20/20, so kind of have to do something here. I don't think he'll go for Shadow Ball or Psychic here because I have the Absol in the back. So I think he's going to double out here, but he goes for Shadow Ball again, which is bad. Because I go for Yawn. I don't even get rocks up. Now, I wanted to Yawn on his potential switching to get the switch out then. However, since this doesn't work, my Uxie is really, really willed, and this is going to be terrible for me late game. So, next turn, here he actually switches out into the Conkeldurr as I U-turn, which is, again, not great for me because Uxie was my check for that. But I can go into Arcanine, get the Intimidate off, and now I have to double right back into my Manaphy, because I can't let Arcanine take a hit, because Arcanine, once it took a hit, it's not at full, has to potentially come in on Stealth Rocks later on. Kartana is a problem, especially a Choppleberry Kartana. So yeah, he goes into Gastrodon here, predicting that or as a switch into Arcanine. which means I can get the rest off with my Manaphy, which was another intention of this play. Now with the rest off, I can try to burn a sleep turn here, and he reveals a Mirror Coat, which is like good that he revealed it now, because I had a feeling that it might be this Mirror Coat set. What this means, I calced it, and what this means, I can hit him with an Energy Ball from my Manaphy, pop the Rindo Berry, and since I'm so bulky, I can live after and just rest the damage off potentially. So this means that my Manaphy can beat this Gastrodon 1v1 and once I pop the Gastrodon's Rindo Berry, Thundurus is looking like a threat. This is, by the way, a Max Spadef Gastrodon he brought. Now I just tried to burn a sleep turn here, because I didn't have time to get up the Rain Dance before. And he goes into Kartana, which is again bad for me, but I want to just burn the sleep turn here. Because even if he goes for Sword Stance, my intention was to just sack my Manaphy potentially to this Kartana, because Arcanine is still at full and can revenge it even if it is at +2. Now, he goes into Tran, but obviously I'm going to wake up next turn and I just throw out another Scald. Oh no, I throw out an Energy Ball predicting the Gastrodon, my bad. But obviously Conkeldurrs is going to come in, and now here start my problems. If I stay in with Manaphy, I'm going to Scald and potentially get a burn, give him Guts Boost, which is bad. Also, since Manaphy's HP stat is pretty high, Drain Punching the Manaphy will get him all the HP back, while Manaphy without setup can't really do too much to this Conkeldurr in return. I can't switch in my Arcanine because I need to preserve Arcanine for Kartana. I can't switch into Lucario, obviously, and Absol and Thundurus that True Thrail, they will take 1,000,000 from any attack it goes for, and there are also sort of win conditions this game. So my only play is to go into my Yuxi, and as you can see, he goes for a knockoff, and hadn't I choked earlier and switched my Yuxi into the Latiasp, that was a misprep more than a misplay, I feel, because I didn't have another play at that point. But anyway, hadn't I choked, my Yuxi would have been able to take the hit, and I could just fire off a Psyshock or get up Stealth Rocks at this point, which would have been huge for me. But now, unfortunately, he can just pick me off with a Mach Punch, showing that he is most likely AV, because I didn't see a Life Orb right here, and not on the knockoff. But here again, my only play is to go Arcanine, and this time I'm a click. I'm gonna click Toxic, because I noticed that this Conkeldurr is actually looking really, really threatening right now, and I can't switch into it anyway. So my best chance to beat it is to whittle it down to the point where Lucario and Thundurus can actually kill it. So yeah, that was my plan by going for Toxic, and I didn't care if the Heat Train comes in, because as you can know, I have Bulldoze. He goes for Earth Power, which is a good play. However, I can Bulldoze, drop his speed, and then I can Morning Sun the damage off on me later on his potential Gastrodon and Orange Switch. But here it's looking really bad, because now Arcanine is weak, and that's the thing I wanted to stop the most. Yeah, anyway. I go into Thundy on the next Earth Power, trying to get some momentum, and that successfully works. And now I'm going to fire off a Dark Pulse, because I know by now that this Gastrodon is Rindo Berry. And also, I couldn't really risk... Sorry for that. I couldn't really risk him staying in with Tran and getting no damage off on that Tran. So now, I'm gonna go for a Dark Pulse, eat up the Mirror Coat, and then switch out, because he's still not in range. I predict another Mirror Coat, and then I can go into my Manaphy, and now I'm going to pop the Rindo Berry, which I probably should have done earlier. And he Mirror Coats me, which puts me down to 45% after leftover, so I'm still at a comfortable amount of health, so I can still take a hit from the Heat Ran. I again Scald, again don't get a burn on the Latios, which is unfortunate. And he Psychics, which is sort of wild to me, why he didn't just never go for the Dragon move, because all the 3 turns he Shadow Balled or Psychic, I could have easily Pursuit Trapped him with my Absol. So I'm not sure how I agree with these plays, but hey, it's what it is. So I can go into my Absol now. I know Pursuit won't kill, I suspect he knows that. I go for Knockoff instead of Pursuit, predicting him to stay in, because this Latios seemed to be a check to my Manaphy more than anything else, which is why I didn't think he would save this. So right now, Lucario is looking like a big threat to his team. If he isn't Scarf Togekiss, Lucario can sweep from this point on once I get my nasty plot up. So that's really good. Oh, yeah, and of course I need to get damage off on this Conkeldurr, which, fun fact, is going to be hard with my team. So I just go for the superpower here, trying to weaken this. What I didn't consider is that he'll Drain Punch, get like all the health back. I actually thought he might Mach Punch to kill my Absol from this point. So again, another choke on my part. We're playing poorly around this Conkeldurr so far. Not really much I could do about it. I really under-prepped for this thing. Anyway, Absol goes down. My only play is to go Thunderous and to click T-Bolt, hoping that he stays in and let me get damage on that Conk. Not possible. So right here, his Rindo is popped. I can just Grass Knot drop this thing, because I couldn't risk Ice Beam, because then would still have been in a terrible position. Now he can go Kartana and go for Night Slash to finish me off, revealing that he's Life Orb. So, not good for me again. I can go, but I have my check in Arcanine, and I can just Morning Sun. Oh no, I forgot the Beast Boost. So here's another thing where I didn't calc appropriately. My calc still had the Intimidate open because Arcanine, because it automatically sets it to -1. And this means that my Arcanine actually dies while I thought it would live to kill the Kartana. And this is bad because I lose a sack that I could have used later on to kill the to weaken the Conkeldurr. But it was what it is. I still have my Vacuum Waving Lucario in the back, but at this point it's over because Lucario can't do enough damage to this Conkeldurr, and he actually makes a really good play going for Drain Punch instead of Mach Punch, and finishing me off with a Mach Punch. So yeah, unfortunately we lose our first game 3-0. I definitely played terrible this game. I'm really not proud of what I did here. A couple of things I noticed is getting off the damage on the Uxie earlier was a bad play. Never doubling into the Absol on the Latias to gain momentum, despite being risky, had been a good play. Not setting up on the Gastrodon with my Thunderous was, in hindsight, a play I regretted because I was leftovers. I could have gotten the agility up right there, not being forced out by the incoming Kartana, and definitely gotten the hit off on the Conkeldurr. Sorry for that, my dog is kind of annoying me right now. Yeah, so couple of misplays this game, and definitely need to step up my game in the remaining matches. I feel like this was the toughest matchup for me because while I had defensive answers for his Pokemon, it was hard for me to prep for all of them adequately without neglecting one or neglecting my offensive prowess. So a good game to Insanity. It was a really cool match. I hope to face you again sometime. And yeah, that was it for our first match. See you around. Cheers.